listeners. This is the second time that we're meeting on this universal energy level here on this program here. You know, as you have seen on that program here, that it's all to do with people's energies, how it resonates within their everyday lives, how it helps them, no matter what beliefs, faiths or understandings they may have. So today, I'd like to welcome my guest, a lovely lady who I know very well. Which didn't sound very good, did it? Very well. Her name is Sheila Haskell, and welcome.
Hello, Rob. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now I know that Sheila has got an awful lot to give to these programs, especially with the energies that she uses. So I have to say that Sheila is a spirit medium. You might like me to call her a spiritual medium, but spirit that may not interfere or demoralise any of her beliefs she has. So we will be asking later on those questions that we normally ask: how, what, where and when. But before we do, I know that Sheila has gone down many roads and understands many beliefs. So Sheila, how did you get to the point where you are now?
Well, I think that life is a journey, and you begin going one direction, and then you go up, you veer off into another. I was actually brought up as a Christian. I was christened, I was confirmed. Grandparents, parents were quite faithful churchgoers for quite a long time, and I was happy with that because I enjoyed the beauty of the services and the hymns and the spirituality. I was rather, as many children are, perhaps a little bit intimidated by the idea of Christ being crucified on the cross because it made me feel so sad. And I think, it was one of the things that I found quite upsetting. But I did love the beautiful prayers and the religion. And so that's how I started off. Then I progressed into an interest in other things because ever since, and this I'm sure, without sounding a little bit passé, I'm sure you'll find that other mediums will say the same, that I was aware of spirit from quite a young child. I had an imaginary friend. And then when I grew up to be about 11 or 12, I had another friend, and we were very, very into all things spiritual. In fact, such that we would be visiting, I know it sounds a bit strange, but we would go and visit old deserted houses and things. Perhaps we should have been doing something else, I'll be totally honest. And we would see pictures there, and we'd make stories, or we thought we were making stories up about the people that lived there, and we were absolutely fascinated by it. And then it went on from there, really. I've been in and out of spiritualism since the late 70s, early 80s. Fascinated, thinking at a very young age that I could be a medium, which I obviously couldn't, because I needed life experience. Me personally, these days, I think it's very important to encourage young mediums.
Yeah, I quite agree. If only to the point that we're going to go, and so we need others to come forward. But having said that, then was there an influence or a certain particular thing that happened that moved you in a ginormous step upwards?
I think it was a gradual process. I think I've always felt not part of the crowd, and I understand that again is quite common with mediums. I've always felt a little bit different. So the friends I had to be really quite on my wavelength, and I would investigate spiritualist churches and all different kinds of religion. I was very interested in the Baha'i faith, which is another beautiful religion, and I had all these sort of different things were pulling me each way, but always very much aware of spirit, always aware of the other, shall we say, and wanting to develop it. So that's how it went from the 1980s, when I was very heavily involved, and I actually did sit in circle with Ray Templey, who I'm sure you will either have met or you will have heard of, when I was quite young, and that was really an experience. But life gets in the way, moving jobs, moving houses, having a child, living in different places. You withdraw and then you come back.
You do. Yeah. I do think that life's experiences mirror the experiences we have on our pathway, whether it be physical or emotional or spiritual. And I do think that unless you do experience, perhaps, and maybe I'm talking out of line here, but unless you experience through actual fact and seeing and researching and understanding, hearsay and reading doesn't really do it for me. I don't know if it does for anybody else, but I mean, that's the first step of doing something and then finding out yourself.
I can totally go along with that, Robert, because as I say, as I have investigated other religions, there was always, and I think it's not the same now as it was, but there was always something a little bit, from many Christian points of view, a little bit wrong about communicating with the dead, as people saw it. There was always something a little bit, a bit sinister. People always saw that, and I think I was brought up, I was a child of the 60s, and I think the problem was that, you know, it wasn't accepted.
No,
really.
I understand that.
And it's taken me all these years to actually, in fact, a medium gave me this message a couple of weeks ago to actually say, I am who I am. This is who I am. And I cannot see that there's anything wrong in accepting different religions and mixing with different groups of people. All you need is people working in the light. And as you'll also know, Robert, I'm very, very interested in the pagan religion, have lots of pagan friends, go to pagan groups.
Oh yeah, me too, yes, I do.
And again, it doesn't hinder me from walking into a church because I am with people that are working in the light. And if they're not working in the light, then I really don't want to know. But I feel that I am getting new experiences, attracting different energies into my life, which will help with my mediumship. And it's very, very important to develop.
I do understand that 150%, as you're saying. Where I may have a conflict, it is that people who are of a one belief still may work in the light, but they still haven't bothered to go down the road of experience. They may open their doors to certain people to come through, but unfortunately it's like a blinkered horse race, one way. You are instructed on the beliefs of that church or centre or whatever it happens to be, and you're instructed that way, whether it be a Roman Catholic, a Jehovah's Witnesses, a Mormon, or whatever it happens to be, or the Spiritualists, which I don't like the word spiritual, working with spirit. But those doors are open for you to experience that, and you only get that doctrine.
Well, absolutely. Again, I think you and I work very much along the same lines, don't we, Robert? And it does greatly pain me when people will turn around and say, I'm in this religion, and it's the one religion, and it's the one way, and everything else is bad, and I am going to heaven, but you, with your outlook on life, you know, you're condemned to hell, which, by the way, I don't believe in. I believe in a learning experience in the afterlife. And it pains me, and I think it's what's causing all the problems in the world, is that everybody will see other people's points of view, and there's room for us all to work in that light and worship in our own way.
I'm sure, I know you're right, Sheba, and because we do click, if you like, and work together, we've been together, and you and your husband as well, it's a case that we've been down many roads together of different understanding. But having said that, then we all know that, unfortunately, as not so much now, but when I started as a medium, the only way you could do it was through a spiritualist church.
Yeah. That's
the only platform you had. And quite honestly, then, even though I understood what beliefs I had, I was brought up as C of E and christened and confirmed and all the rest of the things.
Yeah.
I've done all that.
Yeah.
But having said that, then it comes to a point in all our lives when we have a choice to make, and maybe if it resonates with us, we go down that road and we keep on that road.
Exactly. Yeah.
In those days when I did that, it was a case of rocking boats, and I'm sure you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, I do.
But having said that, I do. This program is trying to get people to understand that all roads lead to the same place. And let's face it, we are spirits. We came from spirit. We'll go back to spirit, and what's in between is our journey. And that journey is up to us how we learn. We will go to spirit where it happens. And so, a good, bad, or indifferent.
I think it's important that you're actually opening doors here, because there is the Spiritualist Church, which I love, and I work for churches I have no problem with. And then there's the TV mediums, which is all very, dramatic and exciting, and no doubt quite edited and not quite as it should be. But there's nothing in between. So I feel that what you're providing with your centre, which I fully support, is something in between, so that if people feel I'm interested, but I don't want to really get involved with the religious side of it, but I am interested in working in the light and working with spirit. I know I'm psychic, or even more important to me is I am a healer and a counsellor too, but even more really important is a healing, that people have that choice. They have somewhere else to go if they don't feel like going into a religious establishment with the doctrine and everything that's attached to it. Nothing wrong with that, but people should be free to choose.
They should be.
And I feel that centres like your own are no danger to the established spiritualist churches, because people will dip their toes in, perhaps by going to a centre like yours, and I know Linda Oldham has one as well. And then if they are that way inclined, or they feel they want to go more down the religious, I am sure that will lead to them attending their local spiritualist church. They'll talk to spiritual people or spiritualists, and they'll find that perhaps it's not as scary as it was. I just think it's a great opportunity to get people to use their abilities, and the way the world is at this moment in time. I mean, it's never been good, but there's a lot of depressing things going on. Spirituality in whatever way is so needed.
I do. Now that brings me nicely on to the next question. Do you think there is a difference between religion and spirituality?
I do. I think there shouldn't be, but I think when people talk of religion, they see it as very formalised. They see it as going to church, they see it as praying and doing hymns, and they see that as quite... Spirituality is your essence, that's who you are, and you can feel it, and others can feel it. They can, it's in your aura. It's that kind of wanting everything to be right, wanting a balance, not just for yourself, but for everybody else. And I'm no saint, Robert, I'll be quite honest, but I am certainly no saint. There's a lot of people thinking, she's sitting there saying she's good. No, I can swear, I can do all the wrong things like everybody else.
We all can.
But at my heart is wanting things, this beauty of spirit for myself. I want to share it with everybody else. I want other people to do what I'm doing, and I'm very, very passionate about that, as I know you are.
There's a great quote that I was told many years ago, and I can't for the life of me remember who it was. I know it was in London, but it's a case of that you can't be spiritual or work with spirit or understand spirit unless you live your life to the full.
Exactly.
And that means all the good, the bad, the turmoil you have, and all those people that may hit your journey for a while and move on, or keep in your life for a time that they're meant to be. And so it's all part of that one whole. What I was trying to say is that people will say they're spiritual, and they'll just go and try something of one religion, and maybe try something of another, and it may take a lifetime for them to understand that their spirituality is just sitting in a garden with nature.
And that is all that's needed to
That
look
is
at that.
all that's needed.
Because we're not all in good circumstances, but I agree with you. You can just sit in the garden and look at the sky and just absorb everything that's been put there for us. It's all there for us, and if we take that in, I'm going I'm quite a creative person, and I think
You're very creative, Sheila.
I do. I sing. Well, no, I'm not.
You do?
I sing. I'm not saying well, but I enjoy it. I write. I do storytelling. I do poetry, because
And you write
that's
songs.
what connects me. I do, but I would think that I'm good at all the things that are not worldly and you're not going to make any money out of.
Makes
but
no difference.
I'm
does it?
quite airy-fairy. But I think my imagination helps too, because I'm always thinking. If I meet people, I'm always taking them in. I'm always thinking about life in general and wondering what what their experience is. And so I'm probably saying that if there's any would-be mediums watching, that that's quite an important thing, to have this kind of imagination and this kind of interest in other people and what makes them tick. Which leads me on, if that's all right with
That's
you.
all right,
But
that's
you did
fine.
say you didn't think that you'd object. This is poem. It's not really controversial that I've written, but it actually sums up how I feel about how organised religion can be. But it isn't controversial, and it's called "Suffer the Little Children." So, would that be all right if I read that to you?
Be my guest,
Thank
which
you.
you are.
The people walking up the aisle, dignitous, did not see the child gaily skipping through the queue of worshippers, all jostling for a pew, her footsteps tripping light as air, innocent without a care. She reached the altar shyly proffering her early morning springtide offering. Rising up, the congregation were righteous in their condemnation. How dare a child so young besmirch with pagan gifts this lovely church? The hawthorn leaves, the silver birch, the bluebells and the daisies wild, whatever had possessed the child? The devil must be holding sway. Get on your knees, I beg you pray, or you will live to rue this day. They scattered all her gifts asunder. The parson roared, his voice like thunder. Her silent tears, they fell like rain, and that child was never seen again. Yet, once a year, heralding spring, they always find an offering. Posies, hawthorn, silver birch, bedecking the altar of that church. So.
That sums up exactly how a lot of people who watch this or listen to this will feel. It certainly resonates with me. And it throws questions to me, and I'm sure it does to you, whereby when we get to a big discussion, and then I'd quite like to use that in our discussion as a question point. Yeah. And because, as you know, listeners, what we'll do is we'll have different denominations here, and we will talk about the religious and the spiritual, and how the conflict, if there is any, has arisen.
And this poem talks about the innocence of a child, and so it's not condemning the churchgoers, but it's just saying that a child skips into the church with an offering that she's got from the woods or from nature or from, and she can't see whether the child's a spirit child, whether she's real, it's whatever you think it is. But the idea is what I'm saying, she can't see anything wrong with putting all these beautiful wildflowers and hawthorn and berries on an altar to God, and she's joyous, and the condemnation from the church, because that's not what you do, is somehow what I feel I'm trying to get across with
you. Are getting across, and briefly to make it easier, that we are only talking about 2,335 years ago. Before that, everything was pagan.
Yes, it was.
And we lived our lives worshipping gods that helped us. The sun, the rain, the water, the earth, the crops in the fields that the sun helped, the rain that nurtured them, the fertility, all those, yet they were pagan.
Exactly.
We talk about them today as though they are mystical and should not be mentioned. But unfortunately, this is going back to a situation where people are drawing on that, knowing that that is the true what they're doing. Yeah. when we go back to, we talk about the Iron Age and the Bronze Age here, and we go far back to, and then we go into the lives of the Celts, or no such thing as the Celts really, but the Scottish and the Welsh and the Irish that we formed, that were called the Celts, and we came up to them, and we had Christianity for one person. But if we go back further than that to the Egyptians, you can see where certain phrases, like the Amen for instance, the Ten Commandments, where they came from, what they did. And we can't but help looking at it and say, is that being adapted or what?
Exactly. And I expect you already know this, but you know, when the Christians came along and they built the churches, they were built, I'm probably talking to people here that know more than I do, but they were built on pagan sites because
Yes.
they were ley lines. These were ancient sites.
Ley lines,
And
yes,
do you know what? When people at one time were forced to go to church, or you know, by their, I don't know, the Lord of the Manor, they had to go to church on a Sunday, but they would go to church. But people in those days would then also go to church and worship God, fine, and Christ and the Christ Spirit and Jesus, the greatest medium and healer ever. But then they would do their pagan rituals. Quietly, they would carry on doing their rituals to the earth, and they were balancing up the two, and they could see no problem with that. But, you know, what was actually wrong was forcing people into Christianity, but people did find a way around that. But now everything should run alongside, all the religions should be running alongside, everybody should be taking what they want from it.
I think we've got over, sorry to interrupt, but I think we've got over the situation of control where it used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, if we go back right to the first Pope and the Knights of the Templar, and then because the Pope had this thing through the King where the Knights of the Templar were briefly for the people, he wiped them out and the Pope got wiped out, and then before long we had the control come along from the Church.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Henry VIII wanted to get married that he turned round and got the control back on the head of the state, which is now the head of the Church. And it has been ever since. But before that, religion used to do that. And they tried to climb it back all the time, because it is a controlled situation. When you look at it, I mean, but at the end of the day, then we're in a situation where we make up our own minds, and we do those things we're going to do. So, I can see you brought some more poems. Would you like to greet us with another one?
If you would like, I've got two more.
Yes, that would be very nice.
I wrote it, sometimes they feel as if they've been inspired, and this one's
I'm
actually
sure they have.
could be used, well, no, I'm not saying anything special. I feel this one would be suitable at a passing, when somebody passes the Spirit, and it's called Go Gently. Go gently as the breeze, whispering in the autumn trees. Go gently as the sun sets before the day is done. Go gently as the rain, free from sorrow, free from pain. Fall softly as the snow. Gently go, gently go. Go gently past the storm. Light the sky. Be strong, be warm. Go with peace into the night. Go with love. Go with light. Go gently, gently go.
It's lovely.
I just felt that's how it should be.
The words, I'm sure, will resonate with people who listen to this. And although we get to a point whereby people will make comments, and I'm sure what will happen is when this goes out, and it may go out later on today, or maybe at the end of the week, whenever it goes out, I will about it to you, and you will then be able to see the comments will come straight to you.
That's
So
lovely.
I'll put it on my page and do that. But having said that, the words that resonate for me are the words that you just said, because they come from a place whereby, and you inspired is inspired. Let's face it, that whatever we do on this earth plane takes a thought. And that thought, through the imagination, to start with, because without the imagination we can't invent. and we can't push forward. But we have that thought, and that's your inspiration, the same as it's my inspiration. I remember when I was writing my book, I had little bits of poetry in there, but having said that, your forte is the words, and the spoken word. It always has been.
Yeah.
I've always admired that,
Oh, thank you.
not just because of the poetry, but because of it resonates through the music that we play. And I really like that. You would have found that in the Sorrel Horse as well, because the atmosphere and it resonates through the words. And I'm not surprised that John promotes you an awful lot. Because that's the way it should be.
I'm absolutely thrilled because I write them for my own pleasure. I'll be quite honest, and I didn't think I'd really do anything much with them. They do go onto a website, my poems, but that's just see what people think of them. And I never really, I quite think they're anything special, but I was quite pleased that something's happening with them.
I think a book could be prominent here.
Oh.
You might get a lot of other comments from our friends who listen about that book and the poems that you do read.
Oh, thank you.
Have you got one more?
I've got one more. This is a very short one, but I have written a lot about fairies. I am so much into fairies and the pagan side. I've written about the Green Man. This is a very short one, and it's my thoughts on fairies. So, if that's all right, I'll read that.
No, you do. And before you start, I have a green man outside my front door.
You have? Oh,
I have, yes, and he's there.
He's lovely, protecting and looking
And he
after
comes from a
you.
great friend of mine who passed the spirit. I used to do workshops with.
Oh.
And she's the one who went to Holland with and we did that one, Hopi Indians and things like that. But having said that, then she did her part of it and I did mine.
So special.
But she left me that green man and it's so funny. He's got a leg missing, unfortunately.
Well,
he's got a foot missing.
That's
okay. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's just to show that I'm very much into the pagan side of things and how I think about fairies. So if you'll allow me to.
No, you go ahead. Lovely.
Fairy thoughts. As fairy folk are hard to find, they leave their fairy thoughts behind. On trails of dust they light the way to fairy night and fairy day. Once upon a fairy dream, I found the fairies and their queen. They are not as you would think. Some fairy folk are dressed in pink, some are dressed in emerald green, some wear colours in between. Some industrious, some are shirkers, sluggerbeds and fairy workers. Some are whispers in your ear, some are friendly, some you fear. Some are youthful, some are old, some would make your blood run cold. Fairies are, I think you'll see, as different as they can be. I know they're just like you and me. Fairies are just tiny beams of thoughts that flit through human dreams.
Ah, yes, it do. It brings back to the fridge magnet I've got. We know he's away with the fairies, but we love him and respect him.
And there's no better place to be, don't you think?
We all do it.
Fairies?
We all do it. That brings me to a question. When we talk about spirit, we talk about it from the pagan view, where not just the fairies, but the tree spirits and the spirits of the plants and the animals, and all combined. They're all as one here.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think there's a conflict with that religious understanding? Maybe that the person died on the cross and the fairies and that kind of understanding of the spirit world, with the tree spirits or the spirit of the seed, as we put it in the ground, that grows up. Is there a conflict there, do you think?
I'm glad you said that, because we're looking again at people being not, blinkered again. Now, in the Bible, it says, in my Father's house there are many mansions. So that to me is there is room for one God. If that's who you want, you're one God. There's room for all the gods. And there's room for the beauty of nature, which, as the Christians believe, was made by the one God. But there's all these gods, there's all these beliefs, and there's all the beauty out there for the taking. And your love and your spirituality, and you know this, I'm talking to the converted,
No.
can make, I know this is a fact, your input can make such a difference. Your kindness, your thoughts can bring positivity to the world. And we all know that churches praying, for instance, when there's famine and when there's sickness and when there's war, we all know the power of prayer.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I'm the first hand for that. Because what I went through, yes.
Yeah, and I think that people get the wrong idea. I'm sure there are people that work on the dark side. I am sure there are Satanists. But I've got to be honest, I haven't come across any in the pagan circles locally that I've come across. Everybody works for the good, for healing, for enrichment, for things to improve. And I don't think people quite understand how very, very, how we're all going in that one direction.
We all, as the North American would say, the Hopis, the key to Awashin, we are all as one, we are all related, and we all are. But having said that, what I meant about the conflict between that is that, maybe it's a case that, as you rightly said, we might become blinkered thinking about one pathway, and I'm not throwing us in that thing because we are experienced, but if we go down one pathway, surely we become influenced by the people who have given us that pathway to start with, and all we hear is about that. So to making a choice and to getting out there, they need things like this program, to understand that they can do that, you know. And far be it for me to give details out, but I know that if people contacted me, and in the end will contact you, you will be able to then pass on information whereby they can go and experience and see things for themselves and find out.
I agree, and I think it's really good because I think we've come full circle, haven't we, in this programme? Because this is where we really started off. That people, you can become rather brainwashed sometimes if you get in too narrow a circle of religion. You think that you can get into that, and it gets very comfy, it gets very cosy. And my advice to people, as is yours, I know, would say, don't knock it until you've tried it. Try and see what's like. My life has been a withdrawing, a drawing in, a try this, a try that, meet these people, meet those people, coming back to who I really am. And who knows, I'm still on that journey. Hopefully I'm still on that journey.
Yes,
I just ask the
I think
spirits.
there's many more
who
things
knows,
that happen.
there's a lot more that can be happening in the
That happen
future.
to all of us.
Yeah.
Just before we leave for the session today, I will say that I'm a bit of a radical, as you know.
Yeah.
I will say what is I feel, working with somebody very close, I will say as it is. And the thing about it is that I won't contradict myself. So if I go to a church, I will change, if I'm being contradictory, I will change the word of God or anything to do with that kind of understanding to spirit. Because spirit is the God, the universe, taking in all the pagan understanding, taking in all the religious beliefs of many different denominations throughout the world. But I have to say the conflict that has been on this planet to do with religion has been quite terrible over many years, and it's happening now. We know there are fanatics in every kind of understanding, but having said that, then we have to get over the situation of we are the ones, and we are right, and we are the people, and it's no use saying we embrace everybody else's understanding and we are open if we give it lip service only.
I think it is difficult for people because I don't think it's, I agree with you totally, I don't think it's just in the way we've been brought up, although that's a big influence with many of us, but I think it's somewhere in the genes, in the collective consciousness, this kind of religious sense of who they are and not of who we are, and not being able to move out of that. And I feel hopefully that centres like your own, programmes like this, that things are going to gradually change and people can open up. It's perhaps in some ways easier for me because I have always been a bit of a rebel. I've never really totally conformed, and although I love people and I love to be around people and be pleasant, and I'm seen as a very, maybe almost a people pleaser, but actually when something needs to be stood up for, that's when you need to stand up and put your point of view. And it's the same with religion. It's a big obstacle to overcome, but all I can say is that I feel that you yourself, with this programme, your centre and your outlook, which are fully supportive of, will help bring about that goal.
Well, we hope so.
Hopefully.
And with that, Sheila, I'll say thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And it's been a pleasure. And I will love to interview your hubby later on. I know that he has an awful lot and a different angle to come to, a very knowledgeable man. But for now, say thank you very much. And listeners, when it goes on the air and goes through to YouTube, please tune in and comment as much as you can, because that gives us all feedback to say not only how you might like or not like at the end of this programme, but also my guests and how we get on. So until we meet another time, I'll say thank you for listening and we'll see you again.